Hey man, say man, it's your boy KJ, back with another video. KJ, the host of the broadcast podcast SL Sports Language, give me the livest, latest news information on sports and events. And I'll put it to you like this. If you got an opinion on what I say, you can debate me about it. If you disagree on what I say, you can debate me about it. Hold on. If you don't like what I say or said, debate me about it! Speaking of debate me about it, put it in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, that's right. Like, comment, subscribe. So you get your latest news and information from your boy KJ, the host of the broadcast podcast, hosting and giving you the latest news of sports and information, sports and events. And here we go. So let's get into it, man. We're here to talk about your main man, LeBron James. And yeah, not everybody likes LeBron. Based on this title, based on the thumbnail, not everybody respects King James. Not everybody likes him. So, I mean, do you know how I do my videos? First is going to be a little bit of facts, and then the second half is going to be opinion. First half of the video, facts, second half, opinion. So, yeah, man, based on history, based on the recent information that came out, based on how certain people look at him, you know, and once you watch this video, I'm pretty sure by now you guys heard about the Stephen A. Views and his opinions on LeBron, him speaking on Carmelo Anthony podcast 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, and then you hear about a story about Russell Westbrook based on digital newspaper, digital reports on what Russell Westbrook had to say, which kind of gets deep into why some people don't like LeBron and why I have my views on LeBron James. But what Russell Westbrook said, we're gonna get into that. Because Stephen A. and LeBron is kind of obvious at this point. So let's get into the facts. So based on history on why certain people don't like LeBron, or why Stephen A. Smith and LeBron got this feud with each other, right? Some may say Stephen A. Smith has it out for LeBron. Some may say LeBron just don't respect Stephen A. Smith for whatever reason. So what happened last season, if I'm not mistaken, the 2024-25 season, LeBron has stepped to Stephen A. Smith, and when I mean step to him, like he stepped to him like Imano, like, what's up? So the way he was talking to him, you can see him talking to him like I'm about to imitate it. Like he was talking to Stephen A. like he was talking to him like I don't mess with that, I don't F with that. Like, and you can see it in Stephen A. Smith, like, oh, this brother for real. But we didn't see Stephen A. retaliate. We just see Stephen A. like shake his head like cool. And then the next day, news comes out and Stephen A. says, I didn't see an NBA player. All I saw was a father standing up for his son. Stephen A. went that route. And I respect it because Stephen A. could have went in. He could have used this as a clout chasing moment, as Stephen A. at certain times he does. Because let's be honest, no matter how you feel about Stephen A., this is not a Stephen A. Smith video. Stephen A. be saying some abysmal, off the wall, appalling things against players to where it hits, you know, kind of deep. To the point where even the strongest players who got the toughest skin, you hear stories about them approaching him, whether it be the Lou Williams of the world, whether it be I forgot that dude's name, who was like one of the biggest draft busts, which he's like one of the first players he came after, Kwame Brown. You know, those type of players that had to step to Stephen A. like, bro, what was up with that? You know what I mean? To the point where it's like, yeah, Stephen A., you tripping. But, you know, he says things for shock value. But in this instance, Stephen A. tried to be the bigger man or go the other route. Then it turns into the Stephen A. said things like, oh, if he would have tried to put his hands on me, I would have defended himself. Then it goes into LeBron said what he said on the Pat McCaffrey show by saying, man, this man thinks about me in his sleep. This man thinks about me when he in the bathroom and things like that. He just can't stop talking about me. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't respect it. Then people started to do digging and starting to realize, oh, this is really about Bronny, probably because when Stephen A. would report and say certain things to Stephen A., when Bronny had got to the league, Stephen A. said things like, man, please, as a father, take your son out the NBA. Man, why is you embarrassing your son like this? And da-da-da-da-da. Why you got your son out here embarrassing himself? He not as a good player. Now, some may say Stephen A. was just doing his job. That may be true. Some may say, bruh, Stephen A., you doing the most. How you coming after him as a parent? And you as a parent should know not to do that. That may be true. So LeBron felt the need to step to him about that. But in his recent interview, that's kind of like, I wouldn't even say heighten up the feud, because LeBron isn't doing no rebuttals, and he's not going to talk about it, especially with his season going on. I don't think LeBron is ever going to talk about it, maybe in a documentary one day, like in a 30 for 30, if that happens. But Stephen A said in a recent interview on a podcast with my main man, Carmelo Anthony, he said, whatchamacallit? He said that I would pretty much sum it up like, I'm just doing my job. When it came to reporting LeBron James, I didn't try to go personal. I didn't try to be disrespectful. They're going to come after me and ask me questions about what do you think about not Bronny James, but LeBron James' son. Now, keep that in mind because that is true. When they came after Stephen A. Smith or asked him about certain questions or his criticism, even me, when LeBron James, let's be honest, when he first got into the league, majority of us sports heads or people who's not even into sports, if you know who Stephen A. Smith is, and if it's breaking news in sports, whether it be basketball, football, or anything, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, the type of status that Stephen A. Smith has, coming from a journalism point of view, sports columnist, to having his own show, to being on ESPN First Take, to being on ESPN and now his own podcast on YouTube, people knew that they was looking forward to what Stephen A had to say, and Stephen A was doing his job speaking on Bronny James, who so happened to be LeBron James' son. I don't really blame him for that at all. Now, certain things that you shouldn't say, like, man, as a parent, man, why you got your son like this? I get it, but it's not like LeBron had called him out of. It's not like Stephen A called him out of his name. It's not like Stephen A called Bronny a buzz. He just said dude's not that good enough to be in the league. That's why he's in the G League, and LeBron shouldn't have had him up here, which we get. Now, like Stephen A was saying in his recent podcast episode with Carmelo, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, dude was just saying, like, bro, I was just doing my job, you know? And then he went into detail, which made sense. Like, I did report on Bronny when he was in high school, out of respect. I did report on Bronny when he was in college, out of respect. You bring him into the NBA. Now, but Stephen A was trying to say, like, I low-key had no choice but to talk about your son because he's in the league. You can't come after me for doing my job. Which, like I said again, is true. But then Stephen A went even into detail by saying, I don't like him. He said, I don't like his you know what. That's super wild. You talking about the king. But to some people, like I'm saying before, he's not the king to some people. Not everybody respects LeBron. And that's for anybody. Me as a man, and to anybody, man or woman, if I don't respect you, I don't care what status you got. You can be one of the best to ever do what you do in your professionalism, bro. If you do some fake-ish, if you do something that's not respectable, and you do it over and over again, so you doing it to others, but then also you doing it to me, I may not speak on what you did to others, but if you did it to me, I may speak on it to a certain degree. But if I say it's fake, I say it's fake, and I don't respect you, I don't respect you. That's just how I look at it. As a man, I'm not gonna chill with you, kick it with you, do none of that with you if I think you fake. That's just me, KJ. And that's what is coming up with Stephen A. Is what it sounded like what he was saying in this podcast episode. He was saying, like, there's certain things that y'all don't even know about that LeBron tried to do to me that I'm not going to get into detail, which I kind of respect Stephen A. I don't know why people be coming after Stephen A saying, oh, he's still talking about LeBron. Again, Carmelo Anthony bring it up. So y'all can't come after Stephen A for this. And Stephen A even said, it's certain things that I won't even get into that he did that maybe don't like him. So Stephen A, and I respect that as a man, if I got beef with somebody, that's between me and you. I'm not finna air it out in the media or go to some people that you love and talk bad about you. If they ask me about it, I'm gonna say, I don't fool with old boy, and leave it at that. I may say certain things, but I'm not gonna get into details. Do what you want with that. And that's what he was doing in his podcast, saying that it was certain times that he would do things, make phone calls. Even he said if it was up to LeBron, he wouldn't want Stephen A on ESPN. He wouldn't want Stephen A on TNT. He wouldn't want Stephen A anything that has to do with journalism, especially in front of a camera. Stephen A pretty much insinuating that if it was up to LeBron, he would try to get him blackballed, in a sense. This is just Stephen A, his perspective. Because even a person who works with Carmelo Anthony on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, he said, oh, so LeBron tried to get you banned from TV. He said, you put 2 and 2 together. I'm not going to say yes or no to that. So, let's get into Russell Westbrook. Ever since this news broke out, for one, when Russell Westbrook got signed to the Sacramento Kings, we thinking, okay, that's going to be the news. And hey, he got signed to the Kings. We thinking that should be supposed to be the biggest recent news in NBA in terms of Russell Westbrook. Because at one point, he wasn't finna get signed to a team at all. At one point, they was thinking about him going to, like I said, overseas. By the way, watch that. Me saying Russell Westbrook should give up the NBA after this season. He should just give it up. Because at one point, Russell Westbrook, he was just going to go to overseas. But he ended up in Sacramento Kings, which I still believe after this season, dude need to hang up his shoes. You got money, I will hope, and you got a school to run, which you got people running the school. But Russell Westbrook is commendable. He's gonna have a Hall of Fame career or Hall of Fame ballot. You got the MVP, dude. Just leave it alone. The ring is definitely not gonna be in your near future, but who knows? There's been a report that Russell Westbrook has said to the media, digital newspaper. You can look this up yourself. He said that he doesn't mess with LeBron and he hate how LeBron is fake. He said, I can't stand that LA LeBron fake-ish. And the funny thing is, Russell Westbrook is from LA. He went to UCLA. And if you guys remember, when Russell Westbrook was playing for the LA Lakers, that was not a good year. I mean, yeah, was Russell Westbrook up and down with the Houston Rockets? Was Russell Westbrook up and down with the Wizards? But he went to LA with him, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, which, let's be honest, that team was not finna go far. If there was it was that what if team. If that team was in their prime, then yeah, they going far. But they was not finna go far with that team. But we didn't think the only player that really looked at bad off that team was Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook really looked at bad on that team. Like, he's supposed to be Mr. Triple Double, MVP, ferocious. Russell Westbrook was like a shell of himself, like missing these type of shots. Then it went into a debate, like, well, Russell Westbrook. It got to a point where people started to question, well, was Russell Westbrook always that good? Could Kevin Durant win a chip with Russell Westbrook, which he could have? Let's not put that on Russell Westbrook, but still, people started to question Russell Westbrook's career. Like, the way dude was playing was kind of really bad. And so now, years later, Russell Westbrook is coming out saying, like, I don't like how the LA organization, specifically LeBron, the way he was acting, like he's just fake. He's a fake human being. You know what I mean? Let's not look at him as the ball player. Russell Westbrook seemed like he's trying to say. Let's not look at him as a father. Russell Westbrook is trying to say. Look at him as a person. LeBron James, you on that fake-ish. And then when it goes into detail, like I said, you can look it up, whether it be ESPN newspaper, CBS, ABC, sports newspaper, digital newspaper, podcast. Allegedly now, Russell Westbrook insinuated and stated, saying that what made Russell Westbrook look at LeBron sideways was LeBron James had a hand in trying to get Russell Westbrook traded, but also trying to bring in Kyrie Irving, which was just so crazy to me to hear that, because it's like, if that's true, dude, that would rub me the wrong way too, because not only is you trying to get me traded, and you as the player, you a player, you're not a GM, you're not a coach, you a player trying to get me traded. And you trying to bring in somebody that, which is publicly known, that low-key was throwing shots at you. Let's face it. Kyrie Irving was throwing shots at LeBron at one point. Would it be after he went to Boston? Would it be him being in the bubble? Like, that's super wild. Not only are you trying to get me traded, but you're trying to bring in another point guard to replace me. It's one thing if this is like a big three moment to where, okay, LeBron James, Chris Bosh is in cahoots trying to make a big three. Or LeBron James and him cahoots trying to bring in another piece or a player. But to get a player traded, then try to bring in another player that that everybody knows that you have controversial relationship with, that is kind of fake to me. And then it goes into other details on why Russell Westbrook looks at LeBron James fake. Just the little things that builds up to the bigger things. And what I mean by that is, Russell Westbrook is allegedly in these newspapers and digital newspapers. Like I said, you can look this up. I'm not trying to get sued for defamation of character. This is what has been said. So I'm going to just keep saying alleged, because who's to say it comes out in an interview, they say, oh, he took my words up. But allegedly, Russell Westbrook just looked at the small things of what LeBron James was doing that seemed that it was fake. Like, he would lie about things that he won't lie about. Like, LeBron James would have a Malcolm X, which is so ironic, because I got a Malcolm X tattoo, and I look at the Malcolm X, like the by any means possible, the him becoming a Muslim, him changing his life after he come out of jail, him being from Little Red to Malcolm X, his interviews, being a part of the Nation of Islam, then leaving the Nation of Islam and starting I think it was the Black Muslim Mosque Corporation, What else did Malcolm X do that was so prolific? One of my favorite quotes that I wore on my cap and gown at graduation was, education is the passport to the future. The ones who prepare for today will see that tomorrow. So Malcolm X I have his biography. I didn't read the autobiography by Alex Hill as told from Malcolm X. I got the biography from Walter Dean Myers, but he said that he would have a Malcolm X book in his hand, but when it comes to discuss the book and the autobiography, he couldn't discuss anything from the chapter or anything from the book. Then we'll go on to say that LeBron James would be infatuated with gangster movies, but couldn't say nothing from the he couldn't quote anything from the, I think it was the what's that movie? It was a mafia movie, an old mafia movie too. From the not The Wire. I forgot, but y'all know what I'm talking about. He couldn't quote anything from that movie, which from The Godfather. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, it's the little things. And then of course Russell Westbrook, it was a scene where that Russell Westbrook brung up that LeBron James was just lying about he knew that Kobe would have 81 points. So it's the little things you lie about, or you have a book in your hand, but you can't name me not one thing or quote not one thing from the Malcolm X autobiography book. You say you like The Godfather, but you can't quote even talk about any movie or any scenes from The Godfather, and you obviously lying about that you knew that Kobe was gonna get 81 points against the Raptors. It's the little things that build up to even bigger things, to you trying to get me traded to bring in a player that you know you have a controversial relationship with. So he just can't stand the fake ish. Then people keep repeating, and I'm still on the factual side of this video. I'm gonna get into the opinions later on how I look at LeBron. People keep bringing up throughout this story about how Russell Westbrook feels and Stephen A. Smith feels about him. People keep bringing up the quotes that LeBron would say. LeBron would say in press conferences things like, "Oh, Russell Westbrook just got to be Russ. Russell Westbrook just got to be Russ." So if that's the case, if you know Russell Westbrook got to be Russ, and one day Russell Westbrook is going to end up being a good player on the team, why try to get him traded, allegedly? But then again, I won't fault LeBron on that, because if you ask me about a person and I know he trash, or I know he not doing good in the public, I'ma say, man, listen, he's still my teammate. In private, and bro, I'm gonna call you out, dude, you trash. So I'm not gonna throw you under the bus, cause we gotta play advocate here, not devil's advocate, no advocate, cause my God is up above, not the one below. We gotta play advocate. If my supervisor came to me about my coworker, right? And I still got hopes and dreams and potential for my fellow coworker, I'm not gonna throw him under the bus. I may say he think he gotta work on this and work on that, but you know, he just gotta get better. Now up to the manager, supervisor, you do what you want with that. If you still need to fire him or send him to another department, behind closed doors, I'm gonna tell my coworker, bro, you gotta get your ish together, bro. You slacking, bruh. You holding me back, bruh. You gonna get fired if you keep moving like this. So I won't blame LeBron James in the press conference say one thing, but in public he does differently. Now, if it's to a certain degree to where in the press conference you saying one thing, but in the locker room you're not telling Russell Westbrook straight up that he got to get better. You saying, oh, just be Russ. But whole time I know deep inside you, and I find out through other players and through other sources that, oh, LeBron, man, he said that he really not messing with you, Russ. He said you really trash for real. That's a problem, because I shouldn't be hearing from nobody else. I should hear from my main man, my teammate who brought me into the Lakers. But let's get into the opinions. Do I think LeBron be on his snake-ish at times? Do I think LeBron is fake to a certain degree? I won't necessarily fake, but he has his ways to where he does come off fake-ish, and he does come off like, I tell people this all the time off camera. I don't think I would want to be a teammate with LeBron. Me personally, I wouldn't. And if LeBron, you seen this is not a hate to you. This is not me coming after your fatherhood or me coming after you as a person. This is me coming after you as me, like seeing you as a player. Because I don't talk about the things that you do off the court. Me as a journalist, LeBron James, or to anybody, I talk about what happens on the court, on the field, or them as a player. Meantime, I talk about things like what you do off the court is if it still relates back to on the court. I don't talk about your marriage problems, your affairs, anything. I don't talk about personal vendettas or what you're going through, because that's not my business. So I feel like LeBron, I wouldn't want to be his teammate, because let's look at LeBron's ways and how he moves. You seen what he did to Cleveland, and he left to join the Big Three. Okay, did we had to do to get a chip? When LeBron comes back, tell me why. First, he trades nearly that whole roster. And then the number 1 draft pick that was supposed to go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Andrew Wiggins, he ships him to to Minnesota Timberwolves. So we never got to see Andrew Wiggins in the Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. Then it was like nearly every season, the Cleveland Cavaliers never had the same roster. And here's what I mean by this. That 2014-2015 season, he made key moves, key pieces to get J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert to come for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then 2016, they won the NBA championship with that roster, coming from a 3-1 series in the finals, which I respect that. Then in the 2017 season, if I'm not mistaken, or the 18 season, he brings in a new roster, still with Iman and J.R. Smith and Kyrie and Kevin Love, but it's like the rest of the roster wasn't there. We talking about the same championship team, but who knows? Maybe LeBron felt like he did what he had to do. That 2018 season, tell me why you bring in Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, D Rose, even I think Dwayne Wade. Then he trades nearly that whole roster, bringing Robin Hood, George Hill, etc., etc. Even people was like, you trade them, but you don't trade Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith, which I kind of agree a little bit. You trade other teammates, but you don't trade him. Those two. And then it's like, you hear stories, Isaiah Thomas would speak up for himself. We talking about the Isaiah Thomas from Washington State that played for the Boston Celtics. Like, there were stories that Isaiah Thomas would be saying things in the locker room, and it would rub LeBron the wrong way, allegedly. Knowing that Isaiah Thomas was coming off of an injury, hip injury at that. Then on top of that, he went to LA. He's in a press conference, which this was rubbed me the wrong way. He would be in a press conference saying, oh yeah, whatchamacallit, man, I think Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, man, they're gonna be good players, man. They just don't know it yet. Then they get traded away. And the only person that had that type of power is LeBron. Because LeBron know what he be doing. Even when he first went back home to Cleveland, he nearly tried to get the whole Miami Heat roster. He tried to call up Mac Miller, Ray Allen. He brought in John Jones, which, whatever. I don't like that. If you're going to go back home, do that. But don't try to bring in pieces that knowing that the Miami Heat is going to need after you leave. If you're going to mention these players are going to be good, right, and you just as great as a Michael Jordan, as a Kobe Bryant, influence that team or those players to get better. Be the leader. Don't get them traded and then send them to New Orleans Pelicans. That's the one thing I don't respect about LeBron. LeBron comes in like a hurricane. He causes a ruckus and then leaves in shambles. You don't do that, bro. If you're a great team or a great player, lead that team to glory with the players that you got. Don't change the roster after each season. I don't respect that. But whatchamacallit, Cam Newton has said something, not to go based off another man's opinion, but Cam Newton has said there's always going to be somebody that's held to a certain standard, and there's somebody or multiple people are gonna always try to find ways to look at them like yeah, he's great, but he's not the type of person that I think he is or she is, which is true. So there's his truth, there's her truth or her side, and then there's the whole truth. So there's his side, her side, and the third person. There's always going to be three sides to it. But I can see why Russell Westbrook said what he said and feels like he feels. I can see how Stephen A said what he said and feels like he feels. And based on what I seen, the way LeBron move, think about it. When you watch me talk about this whole topic, I always mention when there's certain events, LeBron comes up. And certain events, LeBron shouldn't even be coming up. That's why I look at LeBron a certain way, because, for example, whenever there's a trade going on or whenever there's a decision based on what the organization has to say, LeBron names comes up. Think about when LeBron came back home to Cleveland, who was fired? David Blatt. And David Blatt was the first head coach and part of the process when LeBron came back home to his second homecoming. Then they bring in Tyronn Lue. I feel like LeBron bringing Tyronn Lue because he had more control over Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue not going to talk back against LeBron James. David Blatt probably did. We don't know what went on in the locker room. Situation, same thing. Like I said, with these certain roster changes. And then what's the ongoing jokes? Lil GM, lil head coach, lil president. It gets to a point where it's like, bro, the president should be doing the president's job, the coach should be doing the coach's job, and the GM supposed to be doing the GM job. LeBron shouldn't be having his thoughts and opinions in his hands and everything. If that's the case, he might as well own the team. At one point, they started saying lil owner. And to me, that's not cool because, no disrespect, if I'm a head coach, if I'm a GM, in terms of the GM, LeBron can have his few little touches, his few little pick of the litter in terms of recruiting and stuff. I get it. But if I'm the GM, if I'm the coach, if I'm the president, if I'm the owner, I'm telling LeBron straight up, you stay in your place, I stay in my place, I do my job, you do your job, and you, LeBron, help galvanize the troops, help lead the team. You didn't hear about Michael Jordan trying to get this person player traded or recruiting this player. You didn't hear Kobe Bryant trying to get this player traded besides Shaq because he wanted to be the leader of his own team or recruit this player. And even if he did, they did it in a respectful way. You didn't see multiple roster changes after every year between one of the two greatest players of all times, Michael Jordan and Kobe. So why is LeBron always got his name in the mix or always doing this and that, like in terms of trades and recruitment and what the organization should do? Dude, they pay you to play ball, not to do everything else. But, you know, that's just my opinion on the story, man. I know this is a long-winded story. It's 26 minutes. Hey, man, that's what I got to say. Do y'all think LeBron is fake? I know one thing. Not everybody respects LeBron. Not everybody loves LeBron. Not everybody worships the king. You shouldn't be worshiping no man anyway. But based on how the way he moves, I can see why people say, or some people look at LeBron the way they look at him. But, hey, man, it's your boy KJ, the host of the Broadcast Podcast, giving you the livest and the latest on sports and information, sports and events, giving you the livest, latest news and information on sports and events. Host of SL Sports Language, and I'll put it to you like this. If you got an opinion on what I say or just said, you can debate me about it. If you disagree on what I say or just said, you can debate me about it. Hold on. If you don't like what I say or said, debate me about it! Speaking of debate me about it, put it in the comment section. Hold on, the comment section, like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, that's right. Like, comment, subscribe, so you get your latest news information from your boy KJ, the host of the Broadcast Podcast, SL Sports Language, and it's your boy KJ, and I'm out.